So my background has been in public speaking. I've actually been speaking for long periods of time, starting way back when I was 15 years old as a cheerleader and really damaging my vocal cords as a cheerleader. So I'll give you a kind of a history of me, but my progressive to being a public speaker has strongly been since 2000. So for the past 15 years, I've been a professional public speaker and training other people to be professional public speakers. And I follow and train with some of the most elite and top coaches in the countries, I guess, if you will, including Roger Love. So that's why I put Roger Love's information in the file, because that's actually someone that I train with personally, as well as his home programming. And I'm going to share with you some of the techniques. And Roger Love is actually the vocal coach. Like, that's his title pretty much, I should just say. He is one that works with pretty much anyone you can think of. He's worked with them. If they're a professional singer, a professional actor, anyone who uses their voice in a degree, Roger Love is the man. So of course, go follow him. He keeps his Facebook up to date. I know that much, so you can go find his name. And it's not hard to spell his name. It's Roger and Love, like the little hearts that you guys give. So thank you. We definitely want to make sure that people know about this topic. This is actually one of the most searched topics that I have on my YouTube channel, and I want to share it with you. Let's dive deep into it. So what the challenge typically is, especially as people are filming a lot of videos and public speaking. So it's not that you definitely have to be on stage to have a concern about your vocal cords. Being a group fitness instructor for 24 years, I have really gone through the whole process of losing my voice and struggling to get it back. And of course, I still lose my voice. And after running last night's scope, I woke up and my voice really hurts today. It was a good sign to tell me to start talking about this, because I'll give you the reasons why after my scope last night, my voice was shot. I'm going to share with you those tips. So my background is that I started with cheerleading way back when, and I would abuse and scream and lose my voice, no matter that they said push from your diaphragm. We don't really understand that concept. I'm actually going to teach you that you can't actually not use your vocal cords by pushing from your diaphragm. You will still use and damage your vocal cords pushing from your diaphragm. It's just the science of how your body's made up, and I'm going to share that with you. But then following thereafter that, I became a group fitness instructor 24 years ago, and just teaching group fitness for so many years, sometimes without a microphone, definitely has put a lot of damage on my voice. And then moving to big stages as well as weekend trainings where I travel around the country certifying people and running trainings where I'm speaking for 10 to 12 hours consistently all day long, 2 days straight in a row. That's very challenging and damaging on your vocal cords as a speaker. So now, why is this important to you? If you don't public speak, if you never step on a stage, you may run conference calls, you may run videos, you may be putting video content or running scopes yourself up there, and it's really important that you have an understanding of how to effectively use your voice. So let's give you some 5 tips on how you can get your voice back, as well as how to protect your voice. Last night I ran a scope, and I don't know, it would have seemed that I drank like a buttload of coffee, but I didn't. I was watching the replay, because sometimes I like to watch the replay to see what I was saying and what it matches for the comments, because I can't see all your comments right away. So actually, you might want to save your comments right now and questions. So you can comment. You guys can comment. You can give me thumbs up if you agree on things, but save your questions until I kind of let you know, because I'm not looking down there for the questions. But what I noticed as I was going through, and I'm just adjusting my camera, is that I was talking 8 million miles per hour, and I was jacked, like excited. And it was a very strong topic, of course, that I was talking about last night, but I was really in it and intense, and that stressed my vocal cords so much so that now I'm dealing with it today. So let's give you 5 tips how you can prevent damaging your vocal cords, first of all, and also recovering your vocal cords. So we'll go through a little bit of science first, because it's really important that you have an understanding about this. And of course, I always suggest that you Google, but to give you kind of a gauge and to teach you kind of the science side of how your body's made up. First of all, the thing is that people think that if you just drink tea, or if you drink that throat coat, or suck on lozenges, that will get your voice back as well as also prevent it from going away. That's not the case, because if you're looking at the human body, and my background also is in medical, I used to be a medical radiographer, so I have gone through all the gross anatomy side. So I have looked intently at someone's body right with my own eyes and digging into them, with cadavers, of course, in the gross anatomy lab. So your voice is actually, it's not in the path of where liquid will go. I'll give you the reasons why people will want to drink liquids as well as how it might help. But the real concept of it all is your vocal cord box, or your vocal box, is actually in the front. And this rigid tube that runs down the front of your neck is your trachea. That's also known as your windpipe. And then behind it is the secondary tube, which is your esophagus. That's your food pipe. Those are two separate pipes. So if your vocal box is in your trachea, then that means if you're drinking liquid, a flap will cover over the trachea, and then the liquid goes down the esophagus. I don't know if you've ever choked on what you were swallowing, called aspirating. If you've ever aspirated liquid or food, it's because some way or another, the flap didn't close over the trachea fast enough, and some of the liquid came down into your windpipe. And that's why, of course, then you started to choke. So the liquid's not running over your vocal box, so it's not soothing it. So when it says throat coat, no, it's not. Basically, it's going right down your esophagus. So what is the benefit then of drinking hot teas or throat coat or any of the other magical potions out there? It's really just the hydration of drinking as well as the steam of it, just keeping things moist in that area. But it's not about the, oh good, high five, thanks so much, she's an RN. It's not about drinking and throat coating down through that windpipe. So hopefully that science side of it all makes sense in terms of why liquids and all just doesn't make sense. Again, I think it's just another marketing technique for people to be able to sell things. So how are the vocal cords working? So if they're in the front here, basically if you look at them, and I suggest you do Google, especially because if you do speak, if you do videos or public speaking or any singing or anything, this is something you really want to have great knowledge about. I do have a video up that I put up right following personally training with Roger Love. I was in my hotel room and I actually did the vocalization, which we're going to actually practice here today too. And that video on my YouTube channel is one of the most searched. A lot of people find that video and they're constantly commenting and saying, it worked, thank you so much. And I'm like, wow, I only taught one little simple technique and they're finding it and they're saying it worked. So I'm glad, first of all. But your vocal cords are like two bands. And so basically they are going to slap together like this, depending, of course, on how much tension there is. So for instance, if you are speaking in a higher pitch, then your bands, it's like a rubber band, is basically like pulled longer and that's tighter. So it kind of slaps harder together. The more loose it is, then it has more fluidity and flexibility with it. Now, if your vocal cords are becoming damaged or you're having calluses, much like when your hands, if you lift weights, can develop calluses, your vocal cords can create calluses. And that's actually what I have from the overuse and not changing my lifestyle to be able to prevent that from happening. You develop like calluses on your vocal cords so that when they slap, it's like still creating like space. So it's not really kind of coming smoothly together. And that's where the hoarseness and the deepness comes in, is because of those bumps. Definitely. I know. I completely agree. They do. So the thing with that is that you want to make sure that these are trying to stay as smooth as possible, keeping your vocal cords as smooth as possible and decreasing the ability to get polyps or calluses or nodules on your vocal cords so that they can smoothly slap together. So if you are working with damaged vocal cords or trying to preserve them, I'm going to share these techniques that it's going to decrease the inflammation, because that's what it is, as well as to bring your voice back as quick as you can. So let's start with some of the critical, most important steps that you need to make sure for preventative maintenance, as well as to recover and bring back your voice. The first tip is use a microphone. So I've got one right here. This is a lav mic, and I just opened up a new one because I wanted my windscreen. I know a lot of people are asking me which microphone I use. So I use this one. It's by Movo. This is the one that I use, and I just buy it off of Amazon, and I just opened this one up, and I think it can run without being plugged in. I'm not 100% sure. I know I put a battery in it for some reason, but I do have it plugged into my phone right now, and you can plug it into camcorders and other things. The other microphone that I use when I am doing like my podcast, so I run a podcast called The Platinum Edge, and I use this one. It's a Yeti. So this one is very phallic looking, I know for sure, but this one is the one that I use for when I do use this for my scopes or for my podcast. So because I'm recording through my computer when I do my podcast, and I want to make sure that I have as great quality as possible. So those are the two microphones. I've been a group fitness instructor for 24 years, and I will tell you the biggest pet peeve that I have, which I think the person is so stupid for saying out loud, is the people who pride themselves on not using microphones because they can yell so loud and people just hear them. Well, good for you. Why don't you sound like a smoker in a couple of years then? Great, go for it. Because using a microphone doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean that it restricts you. You're actually stupid if you're not using a microphone, because you have to exert so much more energy and you are taxing your body with stress, not just in your vocal cords, but with your entire body, taxing your body with stress to project what you want people to hear. And the problem also is that you're not an effective instructor because you think that they can hear you. They can't, especially if you're blaring music and you don't speak very clearly, or you're a terrible instructor and you just scream your cues, yelling them out like a sergeant. You're going to damage your vocal cords. I could digress and go on about how bad instructors think that they are all that when they're using so many bad skills, but that's not today's topic. Vocal cord usage, especially when you're teaching group fitness, public speaking, doing videos just like this, use a microphone. So when Periscope obviously is becoming really popular and strong, my goal is, of course, is making sure that I do scopes every day. So I at least always want to do one per day because I want to make sure I have that consistency in building the following as well. So now this is actually a new activity for me, and this is the other reason why my vocal cords are actually stressed today, because I am public speaking every day now, sometimes twice a day on video. Here's the difference. I am projecting. I am teaching right now. So when I teach, my speaking voice is different than my conversational voice at home. So for instance, at dinner, I don't go, "Who wants chicken nuggets? Who wants chicken nuggets? I'm about to put chicken nuggets in the oven. Who wants them?" No, I don't need to project like that. I don't need to speak with such energy. I don't need to enunciate as clearly when I'm at home. That's my comfort conservation. So for instance, I will speak and just say, "Who wants chicken nuggets? Johnny, do you want chicken nuggets?" I speak lower. I don't push the energy. But my job, when it's responsible to have a clear speaking voice, I need to make sure that I am projecting, enunciating, and putting the content out with great energy. That is key. This is a job for me. Yeah, scopes are free, but for me, I treat it like a job because I want to make sure that my information is clear and concise and that you guys are getting value out of it. So you have to look at the quantity of how often you are speaking as well. So for instance, me speaking so much now every day doing scopes is taxing my vocal cords so hard that I have to really work on more conservation as well as hydration, and also making sure that I am delivering concise information. So microphones, use them. As much as you think it's silly to have something here and also maybe something right in front of you, like you may be holding a microphone, just do it, because that definitely is where you're going to get the advantage of being able to have your following hear you clearly. The other advantage of microphones is that it is picking up your audio as clear as possible, and then that's also where you can use that audio for other purposes. So yeah, I'm making a scope right now, but I will take my audio from these scopes and repurpose it in different ways, including using them for my podcast, which of course is just audio. So that's what you have to consider, is that your audio has to be as clear as possible. People will deal with a bad visual. They don't want to deal with bad audio. So for instance, I was on a very famous person's Periscope this morning, and I really wanted to hear what he had to say. I got a seat, and I was speaking in where you can comment, like you guys are commenting, because we don't have a lot of people that are on here. This is the microphone that I use. And I was like, oh my gosh, I could talk to him, but I could barely hear him. And I asked my husband, because I was driving at the time, I said, is he wearing a lav? And he's not. And that was key. I had my volume up as loud as I could, but I couldn't really hear him very well. And I really wanted to make sure that I could hear him because I follow his information. He's amazing at leadership and other things, of course, but he needs a lav. And he's new to Periscope. He even said so he was. But that's one thing he definitely needs to have is a lab because that's going to clear up the audio. So that's step number 1. 2, be concise. So be concise. Choose your words wisely. So your words wisely meaning, of course, many times people will put a lot of fillers in on their conversation. They might go off on tangents, which I'm so guilty of because I'm like a dog with shiny things and things just pop up. And of course, I just want to present that information. But really, when you're speaking, you want to ensure that the information that you are putting out there is concise and information that you've already researched. So make sure that the topics that you are teaching is bullet point information that makes sense and it's not just filler words. Some of the filler words people will use are so, and, stuff, things. Be careful. Start removing them away from the your conversation because that, of course, is going to be able to clear up some of the extra words that you're using. So you want to be clear and concise on what you're saying, which also is where you're enunciating. So really focus on enunciating and saying the end consonant of the word. Now, of course, I live in the U.S. and I am from New York, but the funny part is that I lived right close to Canada. I had some cousins that live over in Canada, and I asked my cousins this, and I asked my friends over in Canada, but I noticed, because I used to run a lot of trainings over in Ontario and also in Quebec, that whenever I would run over to Canada, I would run these trainings. And of course, they've got an accent over there too, as much as I do as well. I've got a mutt accent. I sometimes sound Canadian, sometimes I sound Midwestern, sometimes I sound Texan. So I sound everything. But I went over there and I noticed how they spoke and that they said the consonants. The thing is that for Americans, we're lazy. And I'm not saying Canadians aren't lazy because I'm sure there's other Canadians out there that leave the consonants off. But for the most part, the consonants are always dropped off. That's jab, jack. Those are the same types of words, but we're leaving the consonants off. Where I didn't start to really pay attention to consonants was when my son was born, my first son, he's 9, and he was born, and then by the age of 18 months old, he was not saying really any words. He was only saying 4 words. He wasn't saying mommy. So we, of course, took him to speech therapist and got the ears tested and all that. And where we ended up having to move into was doing a lot of speech therapy. And for me, as a mom, I had to really focus on saying all the complete words with the consonants at the end so that he could hear all the parts. And still to this day, he's 9 years old, he's lazy in his speech, and he mumbles a lot. And even though I speak like this, I need to ensure that he could hear all the consonants so he could visualize that also, that it does have an end point. As a group fitness instructor, it was even more critical. I shouldn't say more critical because my son's obviously health is most critical, but being an instructor when you have loud music playing. So if someone said that, what about a preacher and singing? Singing, of course, is going to be different because, of course, the calibers of the range and the octaves and everywhere that you're going with, staccato parts of the movements or sustained parts of the song. Of course, that's going to be a little bit different. But if you are preaching and you've got choir music on or something is happening, as you have interference of noise, saying the consonants is that much more important when you are on a microphone because they need to hear what you're saying, and that completion of the word is really critical. So that is where being concise is also going to help you with your vocal cords because that will get rid of all that filler words. Also make sure that the words that you are saying are clean and clear, that you don't need to repeat yourself more often, and people understand it completely. So that's the second point. So the first point is get a microphone, and second point is be concise. Get rid of the extra filler words and make sure you say the consonants. Let's move into the third point, your breath and timing. So this again is where I'm bringing up from me last night. Last night I was hyped up. It must have been the Moscato I drank right before doing it. I'm not too sure, but I was jacked up, talking fast, high energy, pushing my voice out strong. That, of course, now has a toll on me for today. So I've got some points here that I want to make sure that I say for breath and timing. Typically, when, of course, we're breathing, we want to take that breath in from the belly. So it's a belly breath. Don't think of it so much as a diaphragm breath, because again, my background is x-ray. I used to be a radiographer, and I would take people's x-rays all the time, of course, looking at their lungs and multiple other parts of their body. But the general person, the human, we only breathe in the upper lobes of our lungs, only right here. So your lungs are actually, about this long. They come down here. The problem is that we only breathe here. Pay attention to your breathing right now. It's probably really shallow. It's not coming down into your belly. Normally, we don't breathe that way. So we are so conditioned to breathing right here in short little gasps of breath that when you bring in just a little bit of breath and then you try to push out a long sentence where you're losing air, you're now pushing hard on the vocal cords to get that sentence out when there's no air flowing past it. So basically, the way that your vocal cords work is when you take in that deep breath from your diaphragm, from your belly, and then you push that breath out, it's now going up through the vocal box, and that's where the vocal box is flowing nice and smoothly. And then when you're losing air and just a little bit of squeaks are coming up, it's trying to push that vocal cord to make the connection when there's no air. So this pushing of a sentence to finish the sentence is one of the most damaging ways that you can have use in your voice. To give you an example, what you would do is think of a very long sentence that you would want to say. And then when you go to say that sentence, start saying it and notice, when do you get to a point in that sentence when you start to lose your breath and where you know in your mind there's just about 5 to 6 more words I got to say and then the sentence is done, but you push through anyway. Take a breath. Pause, stop, take a breath through your nose and finish the sentence. You don't have to complete a sentence just because there's more to it. You can, of course, add in that breath and it's going to be able to help you so that you're not pushing. Okay, so that's the one. The second one, like I talked about with the breath and timing, is talking too fast. So I was talking really fast last night. I was pretty excited. A lot of good information I was sharing. When you're talking too fast, you can't effectively breathe in. So if I'm talking really fast and I really want to get this information out to you guys, I have to take quick, short gasps because I have to be able to get my next sentence out. And when I'm taking just quick, short gasps, I'm now taking mouth breathing, which is also only breathing up here. And I'm not able to really effectively get a deep breath. And my vocal cords are now hitting so short and quick and hard with very little air coming through. Talk slower. So sometimes you can't control it. I couldn't control it last night. So when you think about your breath coming through, you're taking a deeper breath, and you're pushing the breath out from your belly and taking that pause, slow down so that people can hear your points as well. Now that leads to the gasping. So did you see the gasping or did you hear the gasping? When I was gasping through that, I was taking it like that, which leads me to the final point of breath and timing, mouth breathing, nose breathing. So I know many people, of course, do yoga and they get really trained on how to be an Ujjayi breath breather, which Ujjayi breath means that you're taking a breath in through your nose and pushing it out through your nose. Now, obviously, if you're talking, you can't do that. So what we have to really think is how to breathe effectively so we can get breath in and not dry out our vocal cords. Practice this with me right here. So as you're sitting here watching, what I want you to do is just take in a quick breath through your mouth and pay attention to how dry the vocal cords feel. So just go, do you feel how dry that is? Now do the same type of breath, but do it with your mouth closed and take it in through your nose. That doesn't feel as dry. And that's because your nose is, the purpose of it is, of course, to filter out particles and dust and all that. But it's also to moisten the air before it delivers down into your body. When you're gasping through your mouth, when you're speaking too quickly, and you're not effectively breathing in through your nose, you're just constantly drying out your vocal cords. And then you push that task on them. That's where it's going to cause problem. That's the number one reason why group fitness instructors lose their voice, because they gasp. Now, let me bring in the example I talked about earlier with when I was a cheerleader and we were told, breathe from your diaphragm and you will not lose your voice. It's impossible. So basically, to not use your vocal cords in physical activity, teaching group fitness, or just even speaking, if you're an animated speaker, to not use your vocal cords is quite impossible if you're moving. Because to really decrease the use of your upper body or vocal cords to push the noise out, you have to be completely relaxed. And a good little exercise is to pay attention to the collarbone. It's actually appropriate that I wore this shirt today. So if I am completely going to stay in my vocal cords, I would have to speak down here like this, because you want to keep your neck and your chest, every part of your body just completely relaxed. And right now, I am not pushing through my vocal cords because I'm staying as relaxed as I can through my vocal cords, breathing through my nose and pushing it out with easy delivery. Can't speak like that. So when you are saying take a deep belly breath through your diaphragm, and if you're exerting energy, when you are moving, I'm reaching and I'm telling people, hey, I want you to do this. I can expand my abdomen. Hey, still it's taxing, because the action of tension is what is taxing on your body and your vocal cords. So hopefully that makes sense. Fourth point, we've got 2 more to go. First point, get a microphone. Second point, be concise in what you say and you speak. Third point, timing of your breath, making sure you don't push your sentences out, gasp, talk too fast, and breathe through your nose to take the inhalations before you speak. It may not be every time, because I know I'm guilty of this right now, but as best as you can, take a deep breath through your nose before you deliver. The fourth point is inflammation. So typically the common reason why people's voices go hoarse is because of inflammation. Inflammation is, of course, that stress on your body, and it swells things. This is one of the biggest reasons why Roger Love's techniques of getting your voice back will work, because if your body is inflamed, everything puffs up. So if your vocal box is puffed up, it can't effectively meet and work effectively. So your goal is to decrease the inflammation in your body to help recover your vocal cords. So decreasing inflammation in your body might mean you might need to take some ibuprofen or acetaminophen, whatever you take. I'm not going to promote one over the other, but take some anti-inflammatory type of medication. Next thing, hydration, critical point. I always suggest you at least drink half the ounces of how much you weigh. So if you weigh 160 pounds, you should at least drink 80 ounces of water. If you exercise, add on at least another 32. General rule of thumb, I think minimum, especially if you're under 200 pounds, at least drink 100 ounces of water per day. So the hydration is going to be critical and key. All the other points, of course, to keep the inflammation down is going to be on that activity that we've already been talking about. So decrease your inflammation. Know what foods cause inflammation in your body in general as well. For me, sugar causes inflammation, and white carbs, too much of it, causes inflammation in my body. So if I decrease that, then my body isn't as inflamed and I have a lot of easier function as well. The fifth and final point as we go through it is the technique that Roger Love teaches to be able to warm up your voice as well as to recover your voice. So the first technique that I'm just going to briefly cover, and by no means am I a vocal coach expert, it's just by my years of studying it because of my own situation with damage in my vocal cords. So working with expert and top vocal coach in the country is Roger Love. His technique is no matter whenever you go to speak, you should do vocal exercises in the morning or right prior before you're going to speak. So even if you're going to be doing a video, or if you're teaching group fitness, or if you're going to speak on stage, or if you're going to be speaking at church, whatever it is, you need to warm up your voice. You probably have seen a lot of singers do a lot of vocal warming. They'll do the scales. So if you're familiar with na 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 na, and you go up and down in that scale, progressively moving up another note, na 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 na. Na 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 na. And what you want to do is try to stay as much as you can out of your vocal cord space and more into your belly and chest. And then sometimes you'll move up into what's known as your head space. So again, these are all techniques that I've learned from Roger Love. And to be able to warm up your voice, one of the techniques is you pick some way of a note that you're going to just go through the scales. Whatever ones work for you. He does offer free audios. So again, just go follow Roger Love and he has free audios on his website, rogerlove.com, and you can download those as well. I have his full program, of course, that I purchased because I wanted, of course, dive deeper into this because it's important to me. So to warm up your voice, you can, of course, do the different mouth exercises that you'd like, but the typical is, of course, picking a note, saying you're going to say na, 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 and you come up and down, and then you move up the next scale to the next note. Na, 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 and you keep going up and down. Then you just switch the letter, or whatever the word is that you're going to say. So B. Again, you can Google this and get lots of different vocal exercises that you can do. One of the most important ones as we wrap this up is how to recover your voice when it's hoarse. And that is by still doing the scales, but what you need to do is drop your hyoid. So your hyoid is this bone in the front here of your vocal box, and it lowers or comes up to be that tension for the vocal cords. So when you drop this little, it's like a very thin U-shaped bone called the hyoid. When you drop it low, which you can do, so for women, most of the time what we'll do is put your finger on your chin and just run it down until you feel the first real bump in your trachea. And then when you hold it there, swallow. And so I was too low, so I'm going to go up. If you swallow, that probably sounds horrible on microphone. If you swallow, it goes up and down. So find where your hyoid is, and then when you know where your hyoid is, what you want to do to recover a hoarse voice is drop the hyoid down. So it's not going to be attractive. This is probably something you want to do when you're by yourself. That's all I got to say. Okay, so you want to take your hyoid and you're dropping it down. You're dropping it real low. So my daughter, she's 6 years old, and she comes to me and she always goes, I can speak boy. So she thinks boy is a different language. That's what she thinks. I said, oh, so what's boy? And she says, I talk down here. This is the way a boy talks. Like, she talks real low. Well, when you get into your low, what do you do with your hyoid to get there? You drop it down. So think about any time when you were faking a voice and you had to speak really low, or if you are a singer and you're coming down deeper into the scales, to the baritone scales. I think that's what they're called. I'm not a singer. I'm just a clarinet and oboe player. That's all I know how to play. So those are some of the things to think about, is how do you actually move that hyoid? Once you've identified it, to recover your hoarse voice, what you do is drop it down. So you're dropping this low, maintain that, do the scales, but you're going to say gug, okay? So what you will do is you will say gug, gug. So why gug? Gug is a natural sound that makes this sound lower, okay? So you're going to lower that down, gug, and you'll take that scale starting low and move up all the way up that octave and come right back down again. Now, here's the thing. This is super simple because I know this is really hard to understand sometimes if you're doing it right. And here's the quick, easy way to know if you're doing it right. You know who you should sound like when you are doing the gug scale to recover your hoarse voice? Yogi Bear. Not the baseball guy. Is that Yogi Berra? Yogi Bear. You know, hey, hey, boo, boo. That is what you want to sound like, okay? So if you can recall, and if you're so young you have no idea what I'm talking about, go YouTube. I'm sure Yogi Bear is there. But start really listening to how he sounds and try to emulate that. This is the critical #1 step. This is the video that I put out there on YouTube, Following Roger Love, that people say they do this one exercise and they get their voice back. So again, the problem of why your voice is hoarse, why mine is today where it feels like there's a nodule, is because it's inflamed because of my poor activity prior to. Obviously, I drank wine, which is a dehydrator. It has alcohol right before doing my scope last night. And then my crazy high energetics fast talking scope had me amped up. So of course I was losing my voice today. Just I'm a dummy. You don't think about those things. It must have been too much wine or something. But you want to sound like Yogi Bear. Drop your hyoid down, go down to the bottom of a scale, an octave, and before you move up an octave, and you just move up through the scales. Exactly, Coach Glitter. That's exactly what's happening with my voice as well, is I'm losing because I'm doing scoping every day, which I don't normally do. I do not speak this energetic at this quantity every day. I don't. I conserve a lot. My household knows I do not answer questions from another room. So for instance, if my husband's in the kitchen and he's yelling to me, "What do you want for dinner?" He knows I'm not going to answer. I just don't. I don't need to yell through walls in my own home. He knows to come to my door and I will speak to him right there. And I'm not being rude. I need to preserve my voice because that's my business. I need to preserve my voice because that's my business. So my kids know. My kids yell for me all the time from upstairs. I never respond. They are 6 and 9. They've got energetic bodies. They can get their butts down to my office and ask me whatever question it is that they want. So the final way to get rid of inflammation prior to you speaking, singing, doing whatever, if you need to recover your voice, to get it back, do the scale, sound like Yogi Bear, find your hyoid. There, you got to find it. So again, women typically can trace down, but men's is a little bit more predominant. It sticks out. It's easier to find. It's also known as the Adam's apple, but it's not really. It's that projection there. It's the hyoid. So you want to drop it down. This is going to be so attractive. Okay? And then you start low. Gug, 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 gug. Gug, 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 gug. Yes, isn't that so awesome? I look so good, I'm sure. But that's what you do. Do it by yourself. Do it in the shower. But that will help you recover. Go up the scale, back down with a gug, sound like Yogi Bear, drop your hyoid, and you will get your voice back as long as you, of course, again, increase your water, increase anti-inflammatories, pills if you need to take them, bring them down, and also decrease the inflammatory foods that you know cause that in your body, as well as the other areas that we spoke about in this, and hopefully that will help you. So I'm all done. I'm just going to move on to question and answers now. So if you have any questions, feel free, of course, to type them down in the comments, and I, of course, will repeat them. Man, you guys are like dead quiet. Am I just stunning you with all my Yogi Bear? Make sure that you give me some of those hearts so I know that this was a good topic. That's a good question. Again, throat coat or lozenges is not effective. So I did speak about this in great length in the earlier part of the scope. So of course you guys can watch the recording again to get a great concept of it all. But throat coat and drinking teas and lozenges are not going down the pipe that your vocal cords are in. Your vocal cords are in the front part called, no problem, Tiffany, the front part in your trachea, which is your windpipe. And the throat coat, teas, and everything come down the back part, which is your esophagus, which a flap covers your trachea so that when you do drink, it goes down. The only benefit of throat coat and teas is just the steam and the humidity keeps things moist, but it's not actually going over it. I actually have damaged my vocal cords more because of taking lozenges that are supposed to help you with your voice. What it only did was it did bring back my voice for that moment, but because I had it, I pushed harder and I lost it and damaged it more. So those are some things to consider. It's really not an advantage to take those things, so don't worry about it. Honestly, that throat coat tastes horrible. I don't even know how someone can even drink that. Can't get it down. So hopefully this has been helpful. Any other questions? Otherwise, you can watch the recording. Make sure you swipe to the right to click share and also swipe up to Android, and that will be able to allow you to share this. And tapping the screen gives me hearts and lets me know that this is a good topic. If you want to find out more about what I do, you can go to livefitoutloud.com. It's in my bio, so if you're not really sure exactly what I just said, you can click on my bio and I put my link there. And of course, I hope this has helped you. And thanks so much. I'm going to be jumping on tonight because I got a great topic. Actually, Coach Glitter recommended I talk about this topic for tonight, and that is about how to designate and find out who gets time with you. How do you designate who spends time with you on the phone, for mentorship, for personal one-on-one coaching, because that is going to be a really important point, especially as you become more and more successful. More people want free time from you, and you need to be able to set those boundaries and requirements on how people can be able to do that. Okay. I will try to avoid when you go on Coach Glitter. I don't know exactly when you're going on. I typically can go on when my kids are going to bed, so I know I'll probably be on around 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, so that's 6:30 your time in Pacific Standard Time. Coach Glitter. Thanks again. Please click share. You can still give hearts on the replay. And again, I'm housing all of my videos on Periscope on my YouTube channel. So if you want to see other scopes I've done, go to youtube.com/ Christine Dwyer. Thanks again, and keep following. I'm so appreciative for y'all. Thank you so much.